After discussing the macrophages, now in this video we'll be talking about the macrophages. The macrophages, they are the organisms that are feeding on food masses, and they can be taken directly inside the animals by swallowing the medium or seizing the prey. So these are the mechanisms of ingestion in macrophages. Some macrophages, they also exhibit a different type of ingestion, which is the mastication process. There may be swallowing of the food and then mastication. External digestion may also occur in some of the animals. Most aquatic animals are the macrophagous feeders, and they are carnivorous in nature. So first of all, we are starting with the macrophages, and we are taking up some animals which are taking different mechanisms into account for feeding. So first of all, we have ingesting the medium. So these animals, they are ingesting the whole of the medium along with the food for ingestion, and these animals, they are exhibiting a special kind of mechanism which is called as burrowing. These animals, they also dig into the mud or the soil for taking up the food. So what I mean to say is that they ingest the medium in which the food is present along with the food. So there are many freshwater and marine water animals that are exhibiting the burrowing and the digging mechanisms. So here the food is ingested along with the surrounding medium. So here one thing is to be mentioned, that the medium in which food is present, it is also ingested along with the food. A very common example of this kind of ingestion is of earthworms. So what earthworms are doing, that they are ingesting the soil along with the food particles. So if the earthworm is eating something, suppose you have some garbage or fruit pieces, so earthworms are feeding on those organic waste. So they will be taking up the soil along with the food. So this is a kind of a mechanism which is called as ingesting the medium, and this is a type of macrophagy. Now, after this, the digested food material will be thrown out of the body. So these animals, they must have a proper digestive system which will be digesting those food particles along with the medium. So their bodies must accommodate the medium, which can be a soil, which can be some mud, which can be sand. So the body should hold these kinds of materials along with the food. So many of these animals which are showing ingesting the medium mechanism, they are having gizzard in them for proper crushing of the food. So this category of the animals which are showing the ingesting the medium process, they do not exhibit the selectivity in the intake of food materials. So what I mean to say, that they will not select the food and then eat it, but they will be ingesting everything along with the medium. Then the food may be filtered out inside their bodies. So that was the first mechanism. Now after the first part, now we have the second mechanism, which is the seizing of the prey. So this is a specialized kind of mechanism of ingestion, that where the prey is seized from the medium. So a very important example is of coelenterids or many polychaetes, and there are some non-mammalian vertebrates which are ingesting through this mechanism. So first of all, we'll be taking up the coelenterids. As the coelenterids, they have got tentacles and they can seize the prey. So they can capture the prey with the help of tentacles. Then the prey is paralyzed with the nematocyst, and this prey is taken up to the mouth with the help of those tentacles. So this is a kind of seizing of the prey mechanism for ingestion of food. The peculiar feature of this particular mechanism, it lies in the presence of some specialized appendages in the animal. Now these appendages, they are helping in the seizing of the prey. First example we had already discussed is of the tentacles. These structures may include jaws also. So there is an example of nereis or leeches, just like hirudinaria or hirudinia. So they use their jaws for seizing the prey. Next example can be of the Radula of Mollusks. So you have discussed or you have studied the radula in your BSc. So radula is the structure which is present in mollusks for seizing the prey. Basically it is for crushing the food, but in some animals radula may be used as the structure to seize the prey for ingestion. Now some of the insects, the crustaceans, the arachnids, they are taking in the food by this method. If I take up the example of insects, they have got specialized mouth parts, and major of the insects, or majority, they have got the mandibles as a part of their appendages. So these mandibles, they are helping in seizing the prey and taking up the food up to their mouth. The third type of mechanism is the seizing and mastication. So mastication refers to the crushing of the food with the help of teeth-like structures. So here the prey is seized and is masticated. So this type of mechanism is shown by many insects, crustaceans, gastropods, birds, and most of the mammals. The animals, they are not only capturing the prey, but they are mechanically grinding the prey to mechanically digest it in the mouth. So we can take our example that we are seizing a prey if we capture a live animal. If we are capturing a live animal and eating it, it will be seizing and mastication process. So the food is primarily digested in the mouth itself when it is masticated. So seizing of the prey and mastication is the most important macrophagous mechanism in mammals. Now after this particular mechanism, we have got the fourth type of mechanism, which is seizing and external digestion. So this is a very peculiar feature of echinoderms. So here echinoderms, they exhibit a very particular phenomenon of external digestion. So what happens that suppose this is an echinoderm and it has to eat its prey. So this is the prey. So what the echinoderm will do, it will evert out the stomach to take in this food. This stomach will be everted out of the mouth of the echinoderm. So this is a very peculiar feature. Eversion coming out of the stomach, out of the mouth, it will take along the food towards the inside. So before the food is taken inside, it is partially digested in the medium in which it is captured. So here we have a partial digestion. So this food will be partially digested in the medium in which it is captured. So this is the seizing of the prey and external digestion. So it is very much peculiar feature of echinoderms. In addition to echinoderms, some carnivorous animals, including sepia, the cephalopods, gastropods, and many spiders, they may seize their prey which are carrying out their external digestion also. So that means this mechanism is prevalent in echinoderms, but other animals including spiders and some of the other animals including gastropods and cephalopods, they are also exhibiting this particular mechanism. So these are the four major types of the ingesting mechanisms in macrophagy. So after this, we are having only one type of the ingestion, that is the fluid feeding, left. And in the next part, we'll be taking up that third remaining type of the ingestion method. Now students, in this part, we'll be taking up the fluid feeding mechanisms as the ingestion mechanisms in different animals. So first of all, we should know that what is fluid feeding. Here, the food is dissolved in some medium and the animal has to suck it. So that means the animal should have a sucking mechanism for fluid feeding. Secondly, the animal should be having a mechanism to get up to the food. So that can be a piercing mechanism, just like mosquitoes. So they can pierce our skin to reach up to the fluid or the blood, which is the food for them. So here we have the very first mechanism in fluid feeding, which is piercing and sucking. So here the animals like nematodes, leeches, parasitic copepods, several insects, trematodes, they have got piercing and sucking mechanism. So first of all, I take up the example of mosquito. So mosquito has got all the mechanisms for a perfect piercing in the skin and reaching up to the blood capillaries of humans. So they are piercing their piercing apparatus, and then they are sucking the blood for laying of the eggs. So that is seen in the female mosquitoes, that they are taking a blood meal of humans. So that is a piercing and sucking mechanism. So the characteristic feature of this feeding mechanism is the presence of particular piercing structures which are associated with the capacity of sucking. So suctorial mechanisms are very, very important for this kind of mechanism in different animals. Now the second mode of fluid feeding can be the absorption through the general body surface. So this is again a very, very important ingestion mechanism in case of parasites, and this is again one of the methods in placental food uptake. So the examples of the animals, they are mostly the parasites which are taking food in this method. There are various aquatic animals, and there may be mammalian embryos which are taking food through absorption by general body surface. Now in this particular case, the medium is rich in dissolved food materials. So this is a very, very important thing, that the medium should be rich in food material. So the organism, they are living inside that medium. As we have taken earlier, the examples of Taenia solium, Fasciola hepatica, even nematodes, just like Ascaris. So they are living in the medium in which the digested food is present. So here, simply the food is taken through the general body surface into the body of the animal. So the whole body surface is capable of absorbing the dissolved food or the nutrients, and there is no specific ingesting area or the mouth in these kinds of animals. So here, though there may be a mouth is present, or there may be the presence of a mouth-like structure, but the general body surface is capable of not ingesting, of absorbing the food material which is present in the surrounding medium. The placental supply of the food to an embryo, it is also coming under this particular mechanism of feeding, that is the absorption through the general body surface. So students, at the end, if we summarize the mechanisms of ingestion of food, the animals may be divided into three main categories. First is the macrophagy, which is taking up of very small food particles. So they may include the pseudopodial feeders, the mycoid feeders, then we had discussed the ciliary feeders, the flagellar feeders, and at last we discussed about the tentacular feeders. So that was the microphagy. Secondly, we had discussed macrophages under macrophagy. So they are taking up the food particle as bulk, as a single food particle. So here we had discussed the ingesting medium. Then we had discussed the animals which are seizing the prey, then seizing and mastication, and then we had discussed at last the fourth part in macrophagy, that is seizing and external digestion. So that comprised our macrophagy. So in the last we had discussed the third type. This is the fluid feeding mechanism, and under this we had taken two categories. First was the piercing and sucking of the fluids, and second thing, which was taken under fluid feeding was the mechanisms for absorbing the food through general body surface. So students, these were the three major categories under ingestion mechanisms, and you have a full-fledged question on this part under your unit 1 under nutrition and digestion chapter. So that was all about the ingestion mechanisms in different animals. Thank you.